My husband gave me an antique perfume bottle for our anniversary, but every time I wore it, I felt dizzy and unsettled. I decided to have it examined. The chemist was horrified and said, "This formula was banned by the Royal College. This is most serious." Before we continue, please write in the comments which country you're reading this story from. Enjoy the tale. On their wedding anniversary, Lord Marcus Blackwood presented Lady Elena with an ornate mahogany box. Inside, nestled on a deep burgundy velvet cushion, was an antique crystal perfume bottle. Its surface was etched with delicate roses, and the golden atomizer gleamed with aristocratic elegance. "Happy anniversary, my beloved," Marcus whispered, his eyes filled with apparent devotion. He lifted the bottle carefully from the box and showed her the intricate engravings. "This belonged to my late grandmother, the Dowager Countess. It has been in our family for generations. Elegant and timeless, just like you." Eleanor admired the gift. The perfume bottle was truly exquisite, radiating a sense of noble heritage and refined beauty. She thanked Marcus, embraced him tenderly, and kissed him deeply. His thoughtfulness had always meant everything to her. Marcus knew exactly how to make her feel cherished as his wife. That evening, Marcus was especially romantic and attentive. He instructed the cook to prepare her favorite meal, roasted pheasant with winter vegetables, had the servants light candles throughout their manor, and requested the musician play soft chamber music. They reminisced about their wedding trip to the continent, laughed over shared memories, and made plans for their upcoming sojourn to Bath. Elena felt deeply loved and content. It seemed their marriage only grew more harmonious with time. However, the first day Elena wore the perfume to Lady Pemberton's tea gathering, she felt quite unwell. At first it was mild dizziness and anxiety, as if an inexplicable unease was settling deep in her mind. Then came a persistent headache and queasiness. Elena attributed it to the changing seasons and her demanding schedule managing the estate's charitable works. It was the busiest season for the orphanage committees, and she was likely just overwhelmed, she reasoned, trying to focus on her conversations with the other ladies, but the dizziness persisted, growing more intense. She struggled to maintain her composure during the social calls. Her words became unclear, and strange shadows began flickering at the edges of her vision. Eleanor felt an urgent need to excuse herself from the drawing room. After the gathering, she returned home and immediately had her lady's maid help her wash thoroughly. The moment the scent left her skin, a refreshing clarity spread through her mind. The dizziness gradually subsided. Her thoughts became sharp again, and the anxiety melted away. Elena was puzzled. Could the perfume really be causing her discomfort? She dismissed it as mere coincidence. Tomorrow she would wear it again and observe what transpired. The next day the pattern repeated exactly. As soon as Eleanor applied the perfume, her condition deteriorated. Dizziness, nausea, confusion. The symptoms returned with even greater severity. When she washed it off, she felt significantly better. Eleanor began noticing other concerning signs. Where the perfume touched her neck and wrists, a slight rash appeared. The skin looked irritated and slightly inflamed. She mentioned her symptoms to Marcus, but he dismissed her concerns, saying she was overthinking matters. "My dear, you are too delicate," he said, drawing her close. "It is probably just a reaction to the vintage essences. Do not fret about it. If it continues, we shall consult the family physician." Eleanor felt Marcus was not taking her seriously. He often did this when she sensed something was amiss, telling her she was too emotional and prone to feminine vapors. But Eleanor could not ignore her instincts. She sensed something was genuinely wrong with the perfume. Her intuition urged her to investigate further. She began observing Marcus more carefully. It seemed his behavior had shifted subtly. He became more secretive, irritable, often worked late in his study, and took mysterious conversations with visitors, stepping onto the terrace for privacy. Eleanor tried addressing this with him, but he deflected her questions, citing business pressures and estate matters. She felt a growing distance and misunderstanding between them. One evening, while Marcus was meeting with his solicitor, Elena could not resist examining his writing desk. She knew it was improper, but she needed to confirm her growing suspicions. She quickly searched through his correspondence and ledgers, but found nothing immediately suspicious. Then she discovered his locked drawer, and her eyes caught a single letter from an unfamiliar correspondent. It contained just a few cryptic words. The preparation is ready, awaiting final remittance. Elena felt ice run through her veins. What did this mean? She quickly replaced everything and closed the drawer, her heart racing frantically. She did not know what to think. From that moment, Elena decided to begin her own investigation. She had to uncover what Marcus was concealing and why the perfume made her feel so ill. She felt her very life might be in genuine peril. Her first step was confiding in her dearest friend, Miss Sophia Hartwell, an educated woman who had always supported Elena through difficult circumstances. Sophia listened carefully and promised to assist. "I believe you need to have the perfume analyzed," Sophia said. "There could be a hidden ingredient or something genuinely dangerous." Elena agreed. She knew she needed an expert to examine the perfume and provide professional insight. But whom could she trust? Whom could she tell about her suspicions? Sophia, after listening intently, frowned deeply. "A rash upon your neck, Elena? That is most irregular. Even if it is merely sensitivity to vintage essences, it is better to exercise caution. And your symptoms? It is too peculiar that they correspond perfectly with using the perfume. Have it tested or simply dispose of it entirely." Elena nodded, feeling dread slowly consuming her. Sophia's words, combined with her own suspicions, became an overwhelming burden. "You are quite right, Sophia. I shall take it to an apothecary just to discover what is amiss." The next day, gathering her courage, Elena visited a small apothecary in the old quarter of town. The establishment appeared modest but reputable, with a sign reading "Chemical Analysis and Medicinal Consultation." She chose this shop hoping for confidentiality and expertise. Inside, it smelled of herbs and old manuscripts. Behind the counter stood an elderly gentleman with sharp grey eyes and careful hands. His nameplate read, "Dr. Edmund Blackthorne, Chemist and Apothecary." Elena approached the counter, trying to conceal her nervousness. "Good day, sir," she said, her voice slightly trembling. "I should like to have this substance analyzed." She took the antique perfume bottle from her reticule and placed it upon the counter. Dr. Blackthorne picked up the bottle, donned his spectacles, and began examining it thoroughly. He removed the atomizer, studied the liquid under a magnifying apparatus, and tested small samples with various chemical solutions. Elena watched anxiously, holding her breath. After several minutes, Dr. Blackthorne looked up, his expression shifting from concentration to a deeply troubled countenance. He cleared his throat as if choosing his words most carefully. "This perfume," he began, his voice low, "has been deliberately altered." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "Altered? What do you mean, sir?" Dr. Blackthorne looked at her intently. "I have been analyzing fragrances and medicinal preparations for many years. This base is indeed vintage and valuable, but something most dangerous has been introduced to it. Something deeply concerning." He picked up the bottle again and indicated the liquid. "Observe this slight discoloration. Something has been dissolved in most carefully, professionally, but it does not belong in any legitimate perfume formula." Elena leaned forward, trying to see what he was indicating. She noticed a barely perceptible cloudiness in what should have been clear liquid. "What could it possibly be?" she asked, panic rising within her. Dr. Blackthorne sighed deeply. "I cannot say definitively without complete laboratory analysis, but I harbor strong suspicions, most troubling suspicions." He pulled specialized testing papers from beneath the counter and carefully tested the liquid. "There is something present," he said, holding up the paper to examine the color change. "Some manner of narcotic compound, odorless when diluted, but I am certain it belongs in no legitimate perfume preparation." Elena felt the world around her begin to blur. "What could it be?" she repeated, nausea rising in her throat. Dr. Blackthorne looked her directly in the eyes. "I am not a physician, but from my extensive experience, this appears to be laudanum, a tincture of opium. Such preparations have been restricted by the Royal College of Physicians for civilian use. Something that would gradually impair your faculties without leaving obvious traces." Elena staggered back from the counter. "Laudanum in the perfume? But who could—" She stopped, recalling Marcus's strange behavior, his evasive answers, his mounting debts. The pieces of the puzzle began forming a horrifying picture. "Have you been using this perfume regularly?" Dr. Blackthorne asked, his voice full of concern. Elena nodded. "Yes, daily. It was a gift from my husband for our anniversary." Dr. Blackthorne shook his head gravely. "You must contact the magistrate immediately and trust no one. No one except the authorities and perhaps your dearest friends whom you would trust with your very life, otherwise it may already be too late." He spoke quietly, but each word felt like a death sentence. Elena stood frozen, unable to speak. Her mind swirled with fragments of thoughts, memories, and suspicions. Marcus, her husband, intended to harm her. But why? Seeing her state, Dr. Blackthorne poured her a glass of water. "Compose yourself, madam," he said firmly. "You must act immediately. Your safety is the absolute priority." Eleanor took a few sips, trying to calm herself. "What should I do?" she asked, looking at Dr. Blackthorne with desperate hope. "First, never use the perfume again. Second, go to the magistrate. Tell them everything you know. Show them the perfume, my analysis. They will conduct proper investigation and determine exactly what the substance is. Third, exercise extreme caution. Do not tell anyone what you have learned, especially your husband." Elena nodded, feeling determination slowly returning. "Thank you," she said to Dr. Blackthorne. "Thank you so very much. You have saved my life." Dr. Blackthorne shook his head. "I merely performed my duty. Now it falls to you. Be strong and seek the truth." Elena left the apothecary feeling utterly drained. The world around her seemed foreign and threatening. The one person she trusted had become her greatest menace. Back at the manor, Elena felt as if an icy dagger had pierced her heart. Dr. Blackthorne's words and the warning about the laudanum echoed in her consciousness. Marcus, her Marcus, with whom she had shared her life, dreams, and marriage bed, could be behind this nightmare. She had to be certain. She could not let fear paralyze her. Pretending nothing was amiss, Eleanor tried to behave normally. Marcus greeted her with a routine smile, asking how her charitable committee meeting had progressed, the excuse she had fabricated to explain her absence. She responded vaguely, citing exhaustion, and hurried to her chambers to wash away not just the day's stress, but the sticky feeling of betrayal. After a tense, silent dinner, Elena excused herself to her sitting room, claiming a megrim. She needed to take action. Knowing Marcus could enter at any moment, she moved quickly and cautiously. First, she examined his writing desk again more thoroughly. Marcus was not particularly careful with security, and his locked drawer, as she suspected, yielded to her hairpin. At first glance, his correspondence seemed innocent. Business letters, bills, greetings from fellow gentlemen. Digging deeper into his personal papers, she found letters from someone named Miss Vivian Ashford. The missives, dating over the past few months, were clearly not respectable. "Marcus, I long for you. When shall we meet again?" Vivian wrote. "Soon, my dearest. We must wait a little longer. Everything will be arranged, and we shall be together," Marcus replied. Elena felt her cheeks burn. Infidelity. It pained her, but it was not as terrifying as the realization that this liaison might be part of a more sinister scheme. She copied the correspondence, careful not to miss any crucial details. Next was his private study, which proved more challenging. Marcus always kept his most sensitive papers secured and ensured they were well hidden. Elena recalled once seeing him access a secret compartment when he thought she was occupied with needlework. She tried to recreate his actions and succeeded. In the hidden compartment, she found more evidence of her fears. Beyond suggestive letters from Vivian, there was correspondence with an unknown party discussing delicate arrangements and guarantees of complete discretion. In one letter, Marcus wrote, "The essential matter is that it appears natural. No suspicions whatsoever." Elena felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. It was too much, too many coincidences. Recalling Sophia's counsel, she decided to seek assistance finding the perfume's origin. The next day, Sophia, using her social connections, located Mrs. Margaret Whitmore, the widow of a renowned perfumer. The elderly woman lived in a small cottage in the artisan quarter. Eleanor, concealing her anxiety, told Margaret about the antique perfume and asked if her late husband had ever created anything similar by commission. Margaret was silent for a considerable time, absently fingering her mourning locket. "My husband created many bespoke fragrances," she finally said in a quiet voice. "But one commission troubled him greatly. He was most secretive in the months before his passing. He said someone was exerting pressure upon him." Elena held her breath. "What was the nature of the commission?" she asked, trying to hide her agitation. "A perfume," Margaret replied, "an antique bottle that required special enhancement. The client insisted upon a particular formulation, said it was of utmost importance. My husband refused for a considerable time, but then he acquiesced. He desperately required the payment." "Who was the client?" Elena asked. Margaret shook her head. "He was most careful. He only said it was a gentleman of considerable influence." "How did he pass away?" Elena asked, trying to sound casual. "An apoplectic fit," Margaret answered suddenly. "He never complained of such ailments." Elena froze. The pieces were falling into place, forming a horrifying picture. Marcus, deaths, a mistress, a poisoned perfume, the perfumer's demise. Everything indicated Elena was the intended victim of a meticulously planned crime. Back at home, Elena felt cornered. She knew Marcus was observing her every movement. She had to act decisively and swiftly. Late that night, while Marcus slumbered, Eleanor retrieved her writing case with the evidence she had gathered. She gazed upon her husband's sleeping countenance, trying to comprehend how she could have been so deceived about him, how she missed the true nature hidden behind a mask of affection and care. She knew she required assistance. She could no longer trust anyone except Sophia. She sent an urgent message and asked to meet immediately. "Sophia, I require your help," Elena said, her voice trembling. "When they met at a discreet tea house, Marcus intends to harm me." Sophia listened to Elena's account without interruption. When Elena finished, Sophia took her hand and squeezed it firmly. "We must go to the magistrate," Sophia said. "You have evidence. We shall obtain justice." Elena nodded. She knew it was the only course. She could not live in terror any longer. She had to stop Marcus before he completed his sinister design. First, she made copies of all of Marcus's correspondence, letters with his mistress, discussions about debts, and suspicious inquiries about sedatives and treatments for nervous maladies. Each document, each line, would form part of the evidence. Elena felt like a scholar uncovering ancient mysteries, except instead of historical artifacts, she was exposing deceit and horror. She reread Dr. Blackthorne's report from the apothecary. It clearly stated, "The antique perfume has been deliberately altered and contains a narcotic substance consistent with laudanum." Dr. Blackthorne had attached detailed chemical analysis showing the exact composition and concentration. Elena knew this was insufficient for legal proceedings. She required an independent analysis. Sophia, as always, proved resourceful. She arranged a meeting with a physician willing to analyze the substance in the perfume. The 2 days of waiting felt like an eternity. Elena barely slept, constantly imagining possible scenarios. She feared Marcus would suspect something, that he would flee or worse, complete what he had begun. Finally, Sophia arrived with news. "The analysis confirmed the presence of laudanum in the perfume," Sophia said, her voice grave. "It is a controlled substance that causes symptoms easily mistaken for common ailments. Prolonged exposure leads to severe mental impairment and potentially death." Elena felt a shiver run through her. Laudanum. Everything fell into place. The dizziness, confusion, nausea. It was not random, but the result of calculated poisoning. Marcus had planned her deterioration, disguising it as natural illness. She recalled her conversation with the perfumer's widow, who mentioned the strange commission, the urgency, the mysterious client who would not reveal his identity. Eleanor borrowed Sophia's carriage and called upon the widow. "Good day, this is Lady Eleanor," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We spoke about the perfume commission." "Yes, I remember," the widow replied, her voice tinged with unease. "I need your assistance. I need you to confirm to the magistrate that Lord Marcus placed that order." "Good heavens," the widow whispered. "I suspected as much. He came to me the day after we spoke, offering considerable payment to maintain silence." "Thank you," Elena said. "Your testimony is crucial." With all the evidence gathered, correspondence, the chemical analysis, the widow's testimony, Elena decided it was time to act. She called upon the magistrate and requested a meeting with the chief constable. The meeting took place the following day. Elena sat in the office of Chief Constable Williams and related her story. Williams listened attentively, occasionally asking clarifying questions. He appeared experienced but compassionate, and Elena felt she could trust him. She laid out all her evidence upon the table: the perfume bottle, the chemical analysis, copied correspondence, the widow's written statement. Williams studied each document carefully. "These are most serious accusations, Lady Elena," he said when he finished. "We shall require substantial evidence to arrest your husband." "I have everything," Elena replied, meeting his gaze. "I know he attempted to poison me, and I am prepared to prove it." Williams nodded. "We shall investigate thoroughly. If it proves accurate, we shall take action." The next few hours dragged on like a slow-motion dream. Elena waited for news, remaining close to her chambers. She feared Marcus would do something, that he would escape or destroy evidence. Finally, around evening, a messenger arrived. It was from Williams. "Lady Eleanor, we have detained your husband," the message read. "He is in custody. Please come to the constabulary. We require your statement." Elena felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was finished. She was safe. At the constabulary, Eleanor gave a detailed statement. She recounted everything she knew about the perfume, her symptoms, Marcus's debts, his mistress, and the perfumer's commission. She answered the constable's questions calmly and confidently. Meanwhile, Marcus denied all charges. He claimed the perfume was merely a family heirloom, that he knew nothing about any poison, that he loved Elena and would never harm her. He said she was hysterical, that she had fabricated everything. But the evidence was undeniable. The chemical analysis confirmed the laudanum in the perfume. The correspondence with his mistress and his debts provided motive. The widow's testimony confirmed Marcus had commissioned the perfume. A few days later, Marcus was formally charged with attempted murder. He was arrested and placed in jail. The investigation continued. The authorities uncovered that Marcus had long been involved in financial speculation and had connections to unsavory individuals. It emerged he was drowning in debt and planned to collect upon Eleanor's life insurance after her demise. They also discovered that the perfumer's death was not natural. Marcus was implicated in his murder to conceal the poisoned perfume commission. Elena learned this from the broadsheets. Sitting in her drawing room, reading the newspaper, she felt a surge of anger and disgust. She could not believe she had lived alongside such a villain. After everything she had endured, Elena took considerable time to recover. She sought counsel from a physician to cope with the trauma. She removed to her family's estate, changed her social circle, and dismissed the household staff. She desired a fresh beginning. A year later, Marcus's trial took place. He was found guilty of all charges and sentenced to transportation to the colonies. Elena did not attend the proceedings. She did not wish to see Marcus or waste her energy and emotions upon him. She simply wanted to forget him forever. After the trial, Eleanor purchased herself a new perfume, not vintage but modern, fresh and safe. When she applied it, she felt a new life awakening within her. This fragrance was a symbol that her choices now belonged only to her. She was free, she had survived, and she would find happiness again.